All right, we got the record going. I'm really excited about this interview with Matt Hand, world-class Highland Games athlete, coming back for round two.
All right.
Matt, so for those of us, or for those people that didn't get a chance to watch the first video, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get going with our interview today?
So my name is Matt Hand. I am a 15-year Highland Games athlete, SUNY Brockport alum, and I'm a professional in the Highland Games and going into my third year of being a pro. Well, fourth year. My anniversary is coming up here in June.
Yep.
So being a pro athlete, I do a lot of clinics in the Highland Games. I dump all my non-insurance work time into being a Highland Games pro.
So before we get started with, because that just strikes me that, so by day you sell insurance.
Yes.
And by night you are a world-class athlete. I remember asking you last time, and I don't know if you remember the response, but I wonder if it's different now from last year. Yeah, it's been about a year.
Yeah.
How do you balance like selling, doing the life thing, like, and the training, how staying world class?
The nice thing, part of the appeal of this career is I chose a career where I have a decent amount of control over my schedule.
Right.
So that makes it easy. And honestly, the more I get into it, the better I am at doing my job.
Sure.
But also it makes my life easier to train. I can leave at 4:00 if I want to, as long as I'm all caught up on what I need to get done. I can plan ahead. I was able to get one competition in this year before this nightmare struck us.
Sure.
But so that allowed, and obviously having the freedom of schedule as well as a job that can have a nice paycheck allows me to still compete the way I want to, because you're not making a career off pro throwing.
Right. Now, before we get into the Corona Classic here of 2020, maybe a couple months ago, I put out on Instagram if anybody had any questions about podcast stuff, and you mentioned dieting and like nutrition and things like that. And it's not something that I really have ever put a lot of thought to, as far as like the type of, meal prep and like nutritional guidelines for Highland Games athletes. So for those that want to get started, or obviously like professional like yourself, what kind of like dietary considerations do you factor in when preparing for competitions?
Yeah, I ate an entire bag of Reese's peanut butter eggs this weekend, so I'm real strong on the diet.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, we're mid-season. So I've as I've gotten to be pro, because for me being pro is like I'm trying to slay dragons at this point. Like the guys I'm going against are either Olympic or sub-Olympic level athletes.
Right.
And a little bit of punching outside my weight class. So I'm trying to do everything I can to make up the ground and make sure I'm still competitive. So one of the things, I've been taking, I look at a lot of other sports. Okay, what are these athletes doing? What are these athletes doing? And what could transfer over to us? So I take a lot of my cues from strongman.
Okay.
So I got into doing the vertical diet, Stan Efferding's diet, from out in Sacramento. And that is what got me to take notice was the Arnold Strongman Classic last year. Right. With still people there. And then that show, Strongest Man in History, that the History Channel put out with Brian Shaw, Robert Obrist, Nick, and Ed.D. Beast. Right. Those guys. Nick Best. Couldn't come up. His last name wouldn't come to me. I wanted to say Nick Diamond, but I'm pretty sure that was the announcer from Celebrity Deathmatch on MTV.
Right. That's right. For the kids that are watching Celebrity Deathmatch, go look it up on the YouTube.
I'm Nick Diamond.
Yeah,
right. But just kind of looking at that, and they took, I've often thought diets are kind of fatty with D's, not T's.
Right.
And they don't necessarily have a direct correlation to something I wanted for what we wanted to do.
Right.
But then when I saw that Brian Shaw, Thor, Oprah, they were all switched over to the vertical diet, and that's what got me to take notice on it. Okay. And those, even like Shaw, at his advanced age, especially in that sport, was having one of the best years of his career based on a lot of it based on this diet.
Right.
So that's what got me to look into it, bought the book, read it up on it, and it was nice because it has lots of manipulation in it.
Okay.
For substitutes if there's food you don't like or isn't readily available,
right.
or also, and then amounts based on what you're trying to actually accomplish. Like, are you trying to get bigger? Are you trying to get leaner? Are you trying, depending on what you're trying to do, you can mix. It's a lot of rice and clean protein, which is essentially that's, the bodybuilding diet, but some tweaks to it because it's all about digestibility.
Right.
It was all things that made sense to me. In the book, they had it backed up with scientific articles.
Right.
Like, this is why we do this. Here's an article that references why we do it. Like, it was one of the few diets I'd seen that actually wasn't voodoo. Is right. Like, this is why we do this.
Right.
Now, the one thing, and then once I got into it, then I discovered that, like, Stan, he understands the digestibility part of it, but he can't cook for shit. Right. So I took my own twist on some things, like, right. From someone who's cooked for most of their life and been in restaurants. Okay, like, I have these ingredients. How would I actually prepare this? And, like, just something I'd want to eat every day versus, like, I watched a video on their Monster Mash. If you take a look at that vertical Monster Mash, Stan Efferding. Mm-hmm. They're making their rice. They're making their ground bison. They put it all in a bowl, and then they just dump the chicken stock on it, and it looks like cereal because it's all floating in there.
Right.
Cold, straight out of the bottle chicken. It's disgusting. So
don't do that.
No. But the chicken stock is good, but you gotta I cook it into the rice when the rice is still cooking. Sure. Now you're still getting that collagen from the chicken stock that you require. So that's been the big thing for me. I'm by no means an expert on it, but I'm just taking more of an interest of it. And if I lapse off it for a few days, I don't feel like there's no like huge crash like people that are doing keto.
Right.
Now, when I saw a bunch of my, bunch of strong men, people that are getting ready to retire, right. When keto became real fabby, I was like, this is not going to last. Right. That no carb diet is going to kill these athletes. Right. And it did. So many of them were basically just using it to retire, but they didn't understand, or the other ones that were doing it didn't understand why they were doing it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh man, I lost all this weight. And then they had one beer on the weekend and then gained 11 pounds the next day once they got out of ketosis. So keto is not a sustainable diet. It's for people who need to lose a lot of weight fast. After that, it is not a sustainable diet. So
when you're planning out your competition, so you got one competition and you said earlier this year, right? Planning out. How far out do you think about, like, if it's a major competition or just like I'm just going to kind of like have fun type of thing? How much time or thought do you put into this is what I should do maybe 3 days out? I have to travel across the country. I have to travel to another time zones, like whatever. How much thought do you put into that?
So as far as that goes, I try to, because this is because my lifting program is based very similar to what Ed.D did at Brockport. He was my coach there. Yep. It's just with some tweaks over time, essentially just as I learned like what works well for me, as well as certain movements that I need to hit that are different from track and field, because the throwing is different, as well as just, every year my warm-up gets just a little bit longer because I have to add a new thing because I have a new injury of some kind. So it's like, all right, cool, that's part of my daily warm-up now, I guess. Right. So now it's a whole like 20, 30-minute thing. Right. But the programming is still a conjugate method. That's where I feel my best. Mm-hmm. But also with conjugate, I feel like I can train for longer periods of time, more weeks at a time. Right. As long as I'm building in deload weeks. Right. So today is actually my first day of a deload week. I just came off a big 3-rep max week. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to go into a deload week. This was scheduled for me, but now I have no competitions coming up now. So my plans are out the window. But I usually try to look, 4 to 8 weeks out a lot of time. For lifting purposes, right. So that I know I'm where I want to be strength-wise, mm-hmm. So that I can take a deload week right before the competition.
Right.
That's usually my ideal.
Sure.
And then the difference is like with Highland Games, like I'll do 5-6 competitions in a row.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like my season isn't only that 5-6 window. Then I'll have 2 weeks off, and then we'll have 2-3 more. And September comes around, we have another 5-6 in a row. So our season goes as a pro really April to October.
So when you say like 5 or 6 in a row, is that 5 or 6 weekends in a row?
Yes.
Yeah, 5 or 6 weekends. So if you have the competition, so they're usually like Friday, Saturday, Sunday type stuff.
Usually Saturdays, and you'll get a handful that are Saturday, Sundays.
Sure. So then how do you decide to like plan out, this meet, we're just going for fun. Obviously maybe like world championships. Yeah, we're going to peak for that. But I mean, like for some of like the other ones where you're, because I know you're not like mindlessly just going out there and just throwing stones in the field, right?
Right.
Like,
So there's some things that go into planning out with Highland Games versus like if you're a power lifter or a track and field athlete, because for the most part, the conditions are always going to be the same.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's the nice thing about track. Now, obviously, track and field, you'll know like, oh, I really like going to because like they acid etch the circle, so it's a little slower. And I bet that's better for me. Whatever, you know what I mean. You don't necessarily. You have to take the more mass stuff into consideration with the Highland Games.
Right.
Is their equipment really good?
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing what events are they doing? Because we have 9 events. We don't compete in all 9 events. As a pro, it's actually rare to compete in all 9 events in one comp.
Okay.
For what I don't have a good reason why that is. It just is. So you have to take those into effect. But you also got let's say, because our board, our national rankings board, for those who don't know, is based on a cumulative score, your best marks throughout the year.
Okay.
For those 9 events. So let's say out of that 5 games, I did really well, good in stones one week, and I did really good in weights one week, and then really good in heights another week, and hammers another. They're going to take my best marks from each of those, and that's going to be my score for the year.
Oh, I didn't know that. So then you can decide, okay, this week I'm going to focus on the stones, weight, stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah. So you got to take that into consideration, and once you've been around, you have a good feel for who has good equipment. You still want to go in, you want to win the event, you want to compete, you want to win cash, you like all these different things. And there's certain events like weight over bar, that's going to be basically the same every time you go.
Right.
So like you're always going to do it. It's almost always an event. But if like, all right, I'm throwing a 19-pound open stone this week instead of a 16. Like, I'm still going to train stones that week, but it's not going to be my prime focus.
Sure.
I'm going to train weights that week because that's where I can try to gain ground on the board to move my ranking up to get into pro national championships.
Right. So we kind of alluded to it at the beginning. So this Corona stuff is sweeping the nation, right? Sweeping the world.
It's the end of the world.
Well, I mean, like I just turned 38. I never thought I'd experience anything like this in my life.
Yeah.
Like who knew, right? That we're going to be quarantined in our house.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, season's pretty, right? Like we were talking, the IOC said, we're going to postpone the Olympics to 2021.
Probably for the best. That's kind of what we talked about beforehand. Especially being where they are, like obviously Japan is a very different country than China.
Right.
Geographically, they're right next to each other.
Right.
You're talking bringing everyone from all over the world, athletes, coaches, fans, to this one spot, and it's not going to do well for a fairly mature country.
Right.
They are better off, and like people are like, oh, let's just push it back a month. The nightmare and logistics to move that back a month only, just hotel reservations alone, it's not worth it. And you're going to get a substandard performance from your athletes as well because of their training is being mitigated right now. I think if you want the best Olympics, you move it to 2021.
Right. Now, for someone in your position, right, you, Megan, world class, right, Highland Games competitors, so knowing that the Olympics are postponed, right, for 2021, do you think you're going to have a season anymore, or do you think it's pretty much
it is a very big wait and see right now. So as of right now, we've seen games canceled as far as the beginning of June.
Okay.
As of right now.
Sure.
So There is one games in May that might stick around. That's in Rochester. I haven't heard. Now that games is under a different set of circumstances than a lot of other games.
Okay.
It's held at a private home. That guy who has a very large, like back 40, and he hosts this festival there on his private property.
Okay.
So little different conditions.
Yeah, sure.
But so time will, as of right now, it's still on, but like I don't necessarily feel great about it.
Sure.
But like the competition that I run in Allegheny County in Cuba, New York, we've had to cancel that.
Sure.
You know, because this is our major time for fundraising for the festival. It's a charity event. We don't make our money on ticket sales.
Right.
Ticket sales help, but we do most of our stuff through sponsorships and donations because we run it as a charity event for local veterans.
Right.
And it's just not – this is the time for us to be able to do it. We'll take a huge loss if we still try to run it. So we are – right now the talk is to postpone it, but I think we might do a smaller version of the games attached to another cultural festival in the area instead of just redoing the full games this year.
So when are you –
on the discussion now was I'm on the board for that one, so I'm kind of in the talks for that.
So when would that one be, or when was it?
That would have been the first weekend of June. So mine thus far, farthest one out that I've heard canceled.
Sure.
The Orange County Celtic Festival, which is one of the most popular. That's Orange County, California.
Right.
They just canceled Friday, and that was Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
Huge festival. I mean, you're talking downtown LA essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Huge festival.
Right.
That was that hurt. And they were taking a big stand this year. That group of games, because they're one of the first games to, as an entire group, introduce drug testing into the sport.
Okay.
They were taking that stand this year because it's always been a kind of a handshake deal that this is an untested sport. And then, some things got out of hand in the sport last year. So there's a couple organizations like that one that are taking it upon themselves to at least do the WADA version of testing.
Sure. Some due diligence.
It's in the world, but it's something. Get the main things out of the sport.
So if you think, through June, you're pretty much, or up until June, season's postponed.
Yeah.
You start over again with, basic prep, or are you?
Right now I am
big PRs in the weight. Yeah.
Right? I am training right now as if my games the second weekend of June is still a go.
Okay.
So, because I was preparing for a 6 games in a row stretch.
Okay.
So right now that is down to 3 games in a row.
Right.
With the cancellations we've had.
Sure.
And those 2 games as well have other issues because they're on the Canadian side of the border.
Right.
Which has also been closed down. So
you're not going.
Yeah, no, and again, we're talking June. So that's where my hope is on that right now.
Yeah.
And they're very traditional festivals. So we'll see.
Right.
I think at a certain point, like hopefully, like, obviously everybody's following the CDC right now and everything.
Right.
But I think the general gist is the number of infections is gonna come to a head this week. It sounds like.
Yeah.
At least the highest numbers we've seen, they're saying like it's gonna be a very bad week.
Right.
Not more than like it's gonna be a bad week. It's just they're all gonna get tested this week and
they're gonna come back positive.
Statistics.
Right.
So hopefully, my hope is by April 15th, we'll start seeing a slow. My guess is a slow like allowance of businesses to start opening back up.
Right.
My guess is schools are done for the year. I feel so bad for the NCAA athletes.
Yeah.
My heart breaks for them.
I know. I was just going to mention that. So Fisher here in Rochester was going to host D3 Outdoor Nationals.
Is that where D3 Outdoor Nationals is going to be?
D3 Outdoor Nationals.
Oh, man.
I was pumped. I was going to go too. I was like, this is great. It's right in our backyard. And for all the – I mean, I don't know if you talked to any of the athletes or coaches that were at D3 Nationals. They were told the night before. They were already there.
They were there.
Award ceremony.
Yep.
To be told that that's it. I mean, you mentioned Ed earlier, number 1 ranked shot putter going in.
Yep.
And like,
that's just it. Like Ed
right.
That's the first – I believe that would have been Ed's first male national champion.
Right.
And because I think he would. He was on a hot streak, and I think he's been real tough to beat.
Right.
Tony there.
Yep.
He's very good, and honestly, like he's a very good shot putter, and he's still missing something. Like, he doesn't get all of the shot put.
Right.
When you watch him throw, he kind of fireballs it a little bit, but he gets such a crazy rap.
Right. I mean, throwing some high 17, 80, like that, whatever.
There's no shame in that by any means.
Like 5 meters.
Well, he broke us. Was the guy who had the SUNY, was that your teammate?
Yeah, well, I wish, right? So Danny Molzadanek set that 1720 something in 1983. So before.
Okay, I thought it was more your era. So I thought.
No,
age you farther than you needed to be.
No. So he broke a 37-year-old shot put record.
Yeah.
I think that was one of. I think it might have been the oldest record that the SUNYAC had. I think
it would have had to been.
Yeah, I think so. The high jump one, I think, is more mid 80s. Kim Orff, another guy from Fredonia, won like 7.
Yeah.
Like 7.4, which is, I think it's tied for the D3 record. So yeah, some freaky stuff.
It's interesting. I feel so bad for those, like, especially like seniors that like, obviously you'll have a few seniors that were going to take an extra year anyway, so they'll be compete again. But my guess is the majority of them won't.
Right.
They're not going to take an extra year just to, especially, Division I's one thing. If it's in the bills, they'll stick around.
Right.
But Division 2, Division 3, NAIA athletes, like, their careers are over, and they didn't get to have that. They didn't get to see what they could do at the end of their career.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, a former athlete that I coach. He's at Texas. Which one of the D2 schools in Texas, and so they have three seniors that they anticipated were not coming back, half scholarship athletes each, and they're not sure if they're gonna come back. So they have to think about, what are they gonna do as far as like the scholarship allocation.
Right.
But as a D3 athlete like myself, like I went to Fredonia for grad school, so I think I probably would have been okay. Like, okay, I just don't compete for student teach, come back and take a lighter class, do it again. But for those who are, going to school for journalism or school teachers, if you're not going to grad school right away, I mean, a $40,000 investment to go
to have one more year track,
right, and the outdoor season. So you're going to sit around from today all the way again. It's for another calendar year,
right?
And if you're not training or anything, it's almost like why put yourself through all of that?
I am very interested to see, because there will be athletes that come out of nowhere next year. Yeah. Because with the strength coaches that are like, all right, cool, like they're almost excited they're not competing for 1 year.
Right.
They know, like, all right, we're just in prep mode for the next 12 months.
Right.
There'll be some coaches that take advantage of this, and I'm very curious to see, what S&C coaches are able to get out of some of these kids. Because, like, cool, we're not breaking you down for a year by constantly, especially like jumpers. Mm-hmm. Jumpers, like those people that abuse their ankles and knees on the concrete.
Right.
If they can, if they have a year of not doing that and just training and building up, we might see some really big throws and jumps next year.
Right. Across all the divisions too, and especially now that with the Olympics being postponed, I mean, I haven't heard anything. You probably don't need an Olympic trials anymore. Maybe you save the athletes. I don't know. Or
and obviously, I think you don't. I think you cancel the Olympic trials for every country as well. You know what I mean? Like, I think
unless and it's going to be interesting if they postpone till the summer of 21. If the qualification process, like I just think of like the athletes at the Chula Vista, right? The training center, like they're ready to go off in a couple months. Now they got to kind of like have to start over again.
Well, at least for them, it's good that it's a couple months out, because you can start ramping down the training now,
right?
And start getting into a build mode,
right?
Obviously, like I'm as big of a fan as anybody of Sam Mattis right now, one of the Earth Muscle guys.
Yep.
I was ready for him to uncork one at trials.
Right.
But
he still probably get an opportunity to do so, and you just got who knows? Maybe what would the math be? Maybe
he's young, so he'll
17 months training.
Yeah. So, and then obviously the Desert High Performance crew, like they might be the best. If you're watching this and you're not following the High Performance crew right now, get on. It's the best follow on Instagram right now.
Right. What
they have going on right now is fantastic with Chase and Nick, and Duke. Yeah. Great follow right now.
Right. Well, that's all I had for you today. I'm getting the warning here that I think I think my time's running out on Zoom here.
Yeah, I got you, man.
Do you have any parting thoughts or anything about
It is so.
life? Like, you know,
I've had to talk to a couple people about this. It's everybody's going through this right now.
right,
All going through it together. The people that are going to be able to separate themselves are the ones that find a way to get some work done.
right,
You're not going to be able to train at the way you wanted to. We are not in ideal conditions right now. But if you take time and get on YouTube and find those African kids that are making dumbbells out of car parts, there is a way to get work done. And the people that separate themselves are good, and that have championship seasons in the fall or in the winter are the ones that are going to find a way to train through this and not wallow in pity during this time.
right.
That's gonna be the thing. That's it.
Well, I can't top that. I'm fortunate that I have a garage gym, so it's cool.
That's right. We're very lucky down here that we assembled one that we usually only use during the summer, but a couple hoodies and some thermals, and we can still get some training in. So
I know. Well, it's snowing up here. I don't know how it is down there. You guys?
Yeah, it's we had a nice little chunk of ice this morning. So,
oh my gosh, this is crazy.
End of the world. At least the weather's nice.
Yeah, right. Well, on that thought, thanks, Matt, and we'll touch base later. Okay.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you later.
Yep. Bye. Let's see here.